Today, what we're going to discuss here is something that I don't see people discussing for some reason. And this is actually quite important. So listen up. Hi, my name is Milan. I share my lessons here on YouTube. And today, what we're going to be talking about is, in fact, how to get that aesthetic big arm look. And without further ado, let's begin. So, the first thing that I'll say in this video is something that people generally talk about every single time you mention big arms, and that is the triceps are 2/3 of the arm. So, therefore, if you want to have big arms, you need to train your triceps. And that is in fact true. But I will say this: you cannot have big arms just from having big triceps. For example, me myself, I was the kind of guy who naturally, had good tricep genetics, and for a while I technically had big arms, but they didn't even look big because my biceps were just flat. Like, I didn't even have a peak. My peak isn't really that good right now, but it was basically just this, like 100% flat, and therefore my arms didn't really look that aesthetic. And also, they didn't look that big because of that. If you want to just have, those meathead kind of non-aesthetic 25% body fat arms, okay, train your triceps, do, close grip bench press, tricep push downs, and so on. But here's the thing: if you want to have arms that are, of course, big as well as aesthetically pleasing, you need to start training your bicep. And this is the thing: you can train your bicep much more than you think. This is something relatively controversial when it comes to this fitness space, but you can train your bicep up to 4 days a week. Now, how does that look in reality? So let's say day 1 of your training is back day. There you hit your biceps indirectly. Day 2 would be arm day. That's where you do direct bicep training, then rest day, and maybe back in biceps again, whatever. You get the point. You can train your biceps up to 4 times per week. The biceps are one of those rare muscles that you can train into oblivion and still get that benefit. The other one, I would say, in that group is your side delt. If you want to have big shoulders, you also need to basically spam your side delts. And here's the thing with having big arms: if you have, relatively developed triceps, but your biceps are just non-existent, your arms won't look big. I know it seems weird and it doesn't seem like what I'm talking about makes sense, but it does. Trust me, because I've been through this. Like, this is what I'm trying to say here. When you're looking at yourself from the side, right, you will see that your tricep is relatively popping and that you have relatively big arms. But then something just won't seem right when you're looking at your bicep. Like, wait, why does this not look right? It's because you have small biceps, man. And so, what I wanted to actually say in this video is just that: train your biceps more if you want to have big arms, but also what is important, of course, is for you to have big triceps as well. Now, what are some specific exercises that you can do? Because I'm gonna be honest here, I've tried every single one in the book, from, normal rotating bicep curls to weird exercises like the Bayesian curl, if that's how you properly say it, and so on and so on. Oh, and by the way, if you want to get coached by me, then the first link in the description is my Instagram. You can message me there and we'll set something up. Now, back to the video. Now, here's the thing: when it comes to those science-based exercises, they do in fact work. I know it seems weird and it seems like pointless when you see people doing some weird cable curl variation, but trust me, those kinds of exercises do in fact work your bicep more, and you'll get more results if you do those exercises than just doing normal barbell curls. And even though that's kind of disappointing, because doing normal barbell curls is just amazing, you get that testosterone boost, whatever. trust me, I was the kind of guy who did those basic exercises and got nowhere when it comes to my biceps, at least. Though my front delt was popping because my form was just shit, but okay. So when it comes to specific exercises, I will say that the preacher curl, in my opinion, is definitely the king. If you don't know what preacher curls are, you are in for a treat. So basically, it's this exercise where you have this platform that's 45 degrees and you put your elbows onto that platform and you just do a normal curl or a curl with the easy bar, straight bar. You can do whatever variation you want, and that will hit your bicep like crazy. What you actually need to do when it comes to this exercise is slowly lower that weight and get that full deep stretch where the arm is actually fully straightened out, and then go to the top again. What you will see when it comes to this exercise is that people will just do that top half because it's technically the easiest. But here's the thing, you get less results when you do this kind of movement rather than if you did that full deep stretch, full range of motion, and then back up again. The next exercise is the flat bench dumbbell curl. So most likely you already tried a variation of this exercise called the incline dumbbell curl, where you get on a bench like this and you just do normal or alternating dumbbell curls. Well, that variation, my friends, is in fact trash. I literally have videos of me doing this exercise from a few years ago, and I look at myself and think, God, I just wasted so many minutes and hours doing this pointless exercise, and I literally didn't even build muscle from it. So it was basically a waste of time. Well, what you can actually do is change that degree position, or change the angle of the bench to 180 degrees. So the point of this exercise is that the bench should be parallel to the ground, or maybe slightly angled, whichever you prefer. And when you actually lower the weight, the tension will be in that deep stretch position where the muscle actually grows the most. We technically don't know what happens in that deep stretch for the muscle to grow the most, but to be honest, who cares? I remember one guy commented on one of my videos and he said, we technically don't know what happens in the deep stretch, so why should we even do it? Bro, you literally know that you build muscle from that, and not just build muscle, you build a lot more muscle doing that than, let's say, partial reps or top end partial reps, whatever. So the proper form is for you to lower the weight relatively slowly. It doesn't need to be, 5 or 6 seconds, but at least control that eccentric motion. Then feel that deep stretch for a second or two, and then go up from there. And that's the general technique for the majority of exercises that you do. And last, voice crack. And the last exercise I can recommend you is the normal alternating dumbbell curl. Now, as a science-based lifter, Milan, why are you recommending these inferior exercises? Here's the thing. You need to have fun in your life. That's my argument. Because if you just do these basic, they're technically not basic. If you do these very specific, very technical exercises to get, that deep stretch and so on, you'll lose the love of lifting. For example, some exercises are technically better than the normal barbell bench press, but me personally, I still do normal barbell bench presses at least twice a week because I love that exercise first and foremost, as well as if I love a certain exercise, then most likely I'm going to push myself on it a lot more than doing some, weird variation, dumbbell bench press, whatever. So that's my argument. You don't need to strictly focus on this movement, so you can maybe implement it once a week where you do, normal or alternating dumbbell curls, but focus on progressive overload and make sure to push yourself to failure when it comes to this one. Firstly, because it's fun, and secondly, it builds muscle. Plus, biceps are a relatively small muscle group, so you can push yourself to failure and you won't have a heart attack like if you were to push yourself to failure on deadlifts or squats. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to, you can watch this video right here, and I'd highly appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel here. If you want coaching, the first link is in the description, and as always, see you at the top.